There is a lot of worry in this country about the ideology of populism, nationalism, and protectionism in the Americas and the governments that promote it. But frankly, my friends, there is nowhere in the hemisphere that those forces can do more real damage than those forces in the United States itself. And if the U.S. turns its back on its friends in Colombia, this will set back our cause far more than any Latin American dictator could hope to achieve. I say this because I believe it is incumbent upon all of us to defend our shared interests and values at home as well as abroad. And more open trade in the hemisphere is consistent with our values and in all of our interests. Let me take NAFTA. Now, I know NAFTA has become somewhat of a whipping boy to some in the United States, just as it is to some in Mexico and even to some in Canada. But the fact is that NAFTA has been unequivocally good for all of our countries. In spite of the naysayers and the doomsdayers, I could recite a litany of economic statistics to demonstrate its success, which is why virtually nobody, not even the critics, actually dare suggest we rip it up. But I would say more importantly, look south of your own border. Today, Mexico's economy is not only growing, but it now has genuine democratic elections and peaceful transfers of political power, and it is engaging with the United States and Canada on security matters. All of these things were unthinkable in the era before NAFTA was signed. I could go farther south to Chile, a country with which Canada signed a free trade agreement exactly 10 years ago. Today, Chile is so stable and prosperous that after years of turmoil, violence, and dictatorship, it is now a member of the OECD. Let me conclude by returning to the theme of security. It is security and prosperity that bind our two nations. Au sommet nord-américain le mois dernier, à Montebello, les dirigeants des secteurs privés américains et canadiens nous ont exhortés à faire le lien entre la sécurité et la prospérité. Ils nous ont dit que sans le « et », nous n'aurons ni l'un ni l'autre. Voilà pourquoi l'initiative relative au voyage dans l'hémisphère occidental continue de nous inquiéter. At the North American Summit that Canada hosted in Montebello last month, I was struck by the power of the message sent to us by leaders from the American and Canadian private sectors. They appealed to us to see the connection between security and prosperity. They told us that without the and, we won't have either. Frankly, that is why we continue to be concerned about the U.S. Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative. We understand and support and are working with the U.S. government on the principle, that is security. But we don't think that the WHTI as currently conceived is either well thought out or practical. And we regret that we have not been able to make land preclearance happen today, just as we made air preclearance happen in the past. Canada and the United States must be capable of managing our border in a way that does not turn it into a barrier to commerce or to our shared prosperity. Of course, our commitment to security and to our shared values, as I said today, extends well beyond our borders. En collaboration avec d'autres puissances moyennes, le Canada peut apporter et apporte en fait une vraie contribution à la protection et à la projection de nos intérêts collectifs, tout en servant de modèle de société prospère, démocratique et compatissante, indépendante, mais ouverte sur le monde. Working with other middle powers, Canada can and Canada is making a real contribution to protecting and projecting our collective interests, while serving as a model of a prosperous, democratic, and compassionate society, independent yet open to the world. It is a contribution that I believe is increasingly important as we meet today's challenges. Challenges that the United States cannot succeed in addressing alone, nor should be expected to. These challenges need the different perspectives, concerns, and capabilities that partnership brings. It only makes sense to consult, to compare notes, and to share challenges. Canada is doing its part, taking an assertive role on the world stage, leading by example, taking risks, making investments, extending our voice and our influence. In our Arctic, in Afghanistan, in the Americas, on climate change, on secure borders, in each of these, we may not always be in agreement with the United States, but we are committed, engaged, and working for real and positive results. Working for a world that is open, for a world of opportunity, a world where human potential is unlocked by freedom and made possible through democracy. Working for a safe and prosperous world for all of us. Thank you, merci beaucoup, and I look forward to your questions. Looking over your first step.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. I'd like to perhaps just start the discussion and invite also any of you who have questions, when you do pose your questions, to please identify yourself and your affiliation. But I will maybe just pursue one of the points that you mentioned with regards to NAFTA.
Sure.
And the point that you made is that no one, even the staunchest opponents, is willing to tear the agreement up. But my question is anyone willing to extend the agreement? I know that you've extended the agreement to Chile, and you're considering other such pacts. But here in this country, there seems to be a resistance to extending this any further. And I wonder if you might comment on populism and protectionism.
Well, first of all, let me just say that Canada is engaged right now, and we've kind of revived our interest in signing free trade agreements after some years of absence. We just recently signed one with the European Free Trade Association. I mentioned we have negotiations with Colombia and also with Peru, with the Dominican Republic, with CARICOM, with the Central American Four, and we're talking to Jordan on similar projects. So we're engaged in trying to diversify and deepen our trade linkages. I believe that Canada's economic relationship with the United States is its most important relationship in the world. I believe we should do everything we can to strengthen that. That's been my long-standing position. I've always supported free trade agreement, continue to think that we can build upon it, and I think history has demonstrated that Canada can do that and maintain its independence on the things that matter to Canada's unique national character. My own sense is that any talk of deepening NAFTA or strengthening trade relationships on this continent is not going to happen in the immediate future. My conclusion after a year and a half in this job is that, notwithstanding the reasonably good relationship I think we have with the United States government, that the United States government post September 2011, I'll attribute it to that, has very much become preoccupied with security, and security that has very much a strong emphasis on national sovereignty and national borders. And I think that until we're able to decouple that somewhat better, that the prospects of deepening our economic relationship are limited. What we want to do is make sure we don't go backwards in any way. That's why we're working with the administration and other interests in the United States to make sure the WHTI, when it's implemented, is implemented as in a way that does not impede commerce and economic relations. But as I say, I think security, as opposed to the economy, is the primacy, is the primary focus of policymakers in the administration, and not just in their relationship with Canada, but in all relationships.
Well, that became clear in the immigration debate also in the U.S. My question, I guess, was more whether you thought the U.S. had the stomach, putting aside the security issue, but had the stomach to go along with the efforts that you have put forth to deepen and extend the trade agreement.
Well, I can give one example where there was willingness. The administration, shortly after our government took office,